friends, my name is Sarah and today we are going to talk about BookTube-a-Thon. Before we jump in, I just wanted to let you know I am completely spitballing this. I have not really scripted anything at all, so it might get a little bit rambly, but hopefully in the end everything will make sense. BookTube-a-Thon happened from July 18th to the 24th. If you're not familiar with it, it is a week-long readathon focused on the BookTube community. There are reading challenges, Instagram challenges, and video challenges, and it's really just a great way to celebrate reading as a community. And I participated for the very first time and was really excited going into this. It was my very first readathon that I really was focused on and came up with a full TBR that had all of the challenges covered and all this stuff. And from an outside perspective, it looks like I succeeded at BookTube-a-Thon. I completed all 7 challenges, I read 7 books, I did a couple of the Instagram challenges, one of the video challenges, and overall, like I said, from an outside perspective, it looks like BookTube-a-Thon 2016 was a success for me. However, about halfway through the week, I started to experience what I call story fatigue or book whiplash, which is basically when you are just reading too much too fast. Because you're reading so much, you aren't able to fully process all of the things that you are reading about, and you find yourself feeling mentally and sometimes emotionally exhausted from reading as much as you are. And I will caveat that with the fact that I know people like Kirsty from Melbourne on My Mind who on average read 7 to 10 books a week and are fully able to grasp and process all of those things, and props to them because my brain just does not work that way. And so because I started feeling this story fatigue about halfway through the week, I seriously started to question whether or not I was going to be able to finish all of the books that I had on my TBR. And it wasn't because I didn't feel like I was going to have the time or anything like that. It was simply because I didn't know if I wanted to expend the mental and emotional energy to finish all of these stories and to process all of them in such a short span of time. Like I said, in the end, I did wind up pushing through and finishing all 7 books, but I actually wound up finishing books 5, 6, and 7 on Sunday, and I not only did that, but I started and finished books 6 and 7 on Sunday. And I can 100% say that the only reason I didn't finish book 5 and call it quits and say this is good enough for me, and I pushed through and read those books 6 and 7 was because of the pressure, was because of people saying, well, you've come so far, you should do it. And on some level, that kind of motivation and encouragement and sort of pushing people to go a little bit further than they normally would when it comes to their reading goals is a good thing. And that's one of the things I do love about this community. But at the same time, it made it so that by the end of the readathon, I was reading for BookTube. I was reading for other people. I was reading for the fact that other people would look at my readathon success and go, yes, she did a great job. She finished all 7 books. That's awesome. And not because I actually wanted to finish 7 books in a week. So in many respects, I learned a very important lesson about myself during BookTube-a-Thon, and that is that readathons might not be the best way for me to read books because I wind up putting this undue pressure on myself, and then my reading becomes about the readathon and not about the actual reading experience. And I'm not so much reading for me as much as I'm reading for this almost notoriety with other people, which is not the purpose of reading. That's not why I read in the first place. That's not why I read before I joined BookTube, and that's not why I should read after I've joined BookTube. This, of course, then got me thinking about my reading habits in general, and I realized that I might be letting the BookTube community affect my reading a little bit more than I like, because a lot of the books that I have read over the last several months are books that I would not normally have picked up without the influence of BookTube, and they're books that I haven't really loved. They're books that I felt pretty mediocre about. So like I said at the beginning, I didn't script this out and I don't really have a closing thought, but I guess I just wanted to give the solidarity to people and share my experience, because I feel like it's entirely possible to watch BookTube-a-Thon happen and to try to participate and feel like a complete failure. Feel like you messed up or something like that if you weren't able to read 7 books in a week or whatever, but that is not the case. Like Ariel says in her videos, if you even read 10 pages, you succeeded at BookTube-a-Thon. The purpose of readathons are to celebrate reading, not to make this pressure or anything like that. And so if you feel like you only read for the sake of reading, then don't put that pressure on yourself next time. And if you feel like you weren't able to succeed at BookTube-a-Thon because you didn't complete 7 books or you didn't complete all the challenges or whatever, that is not the case at all. Just remember that we read because we love to read, not because we're supposed to read for a specific challenge or for a specific group of people or anything like that. Well, there you have it, friends. Those are my probably very rambly thoughts on my experience with BookTube-a-Thon 2016. If you have any thoughts on this topic or about reading for the sake of other people and not for yourself, and all of the things that I sort of touched on here, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what you are thinking. If you want to follow me elsewhere online, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads, all at Sarah Ann Hayes. The links for those profiles will be in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye! Put much less...